This is Richie Incognito of the Buffalo Bills. You're listening to Locked On Bills, presented by Cover One.
What's going on, guys? This is Erik Turner. I'm joined today by Dan Lavoie. This is Locked On Bills, presented by Cover One. And we have a few topics we want to cover today. First being the Tyrod Taylor situation. Then we're going to touch upon the Chiefs signing Darrelle Revis. And then the third portion of this short podcast will just be a short film breakdown of three of the better runs from this past weekend against the Chargers. So, Dan, I'll start off with Tyrod Taylor. He was named the starter this week for the Kansas City Chiefs game. Obviously, the game's out in Kansas City. What are your initial thoughts on that move made by McDermott?
I think this was the right move for McDermott to make. I don't see how, after Sunday's performance, McDermott could get away with saying with a straight face that he wants this team to be winning in 2017 and still be starting Nate Peterman. It's one thing if the rookie came in, had two interceptions, but at least had a few positive plays in the end of the day. But this was too much. It was, the optics did not work out. And, I think Taylor starting also gives the Bills a chance to win against a Chiefs team that hasn't really looked that good for the last few weeks.
Yeah, definitely. And it's something that I think when you compare the two quarterbacks, the apparent quick draw of Nathan Peterman, guy that wants to get the ball out of his hand, versus a guy like Taylor who maybe holds on to the ball a little longer than most like. But he's also a guy that's, I mentioned it several times, he's going to have some explosive plays. And right now, with the Bills struggling in the pass game, the Bills struggling in the run game at times, you got to have some explosive plays. That's something that they've relied on the prior 2 years, except they had more of those type of weapons that, vertical weapons that could help Tyrod Taylor. So having a guy like Taylor there, obviously a veteran, not a fifth-round rookie being thrown at Kansas City in that stadium and that crowd, because obviously that's an element that they have to prepare for on its own, outside of the X's and O's, the game plan and all that. So I think it is a smart move and something that, I think it's McDermott admitting that, he thought last week, his best chance was with Peterman, and, maybe he got to give him a mulligan on this one and start Taylor because I do believe, Dan, I don't know if you're in agreement with me on this. Week to week, obviously game plans change. You're playing different teams. You're playing on the road. You're playing at home. I do believe McDermott when he says his best chance he thought was last week was with Peterman, whereas this week it can change because of that game plan. Where are you on that?
Yeah, so I went back and watched to get a sense of how Peterman played, and it sounded stupid when McDermott said that it wasn't all that bad, but I have to agree, having gone back and watched, I think the most you could say about a lot of those interceptions was that they were coming on plays where he wanted to take a chance, but he did not anticipate the edge pressure, and the result did not work out. But McDermott's right that the process that he was going through of making the right reads and starting the throw would work out in his favor. And he had several good completions in the process of the play outside of those interceptions. But he needs to learn to step up in the pocket and anticipate that pressure. And he needs to learn how to tuck it down and take a sack if he's just not going to have that day.
Yeah, and I agree. A lot of fans and media personnel were kind of upset with some of the coach speak that McDermott threw out to them. And you mentioned some of those things, it's not all on Peterman, just like every week, when we break down Tyrod Taylor's film, it's not all on him. There are other factors that go into a play. And that's when we were winning, that was okay to have that coach speak, to have that 1 of 11th, team aspect. But when you start losing, and losing big, fans want answers, media want answers, and I understand that, but he's right. A couple of those weren't really his fault. A couple of those you can't blame him for keeping his eyes downfield. But again, you nailed it. He some of those he needed to just eat the play. You look at the all 22. The guy was covered. The one where you saw him get hit by Bosa off the edge, off the right hand side, where Mills and Dukas missed the block.
He outright crumpled on that.
There was no need to even get rid of that ball. Even if he had gotten rid of it, I can argue that that was probably going to be picked anyway with that safety robbing that deep comeback to Thompson, right?
He was watching that. Unless he really aired it out in front, I don't see how that was going to be free. He also had a misread on, I think it was his final interception. It was the one to the left to Deontay Thompson that he misread the route, and that did not work out. So he's learning. He's a rookie. And what we saw when Taylor came back in was Mills was still having a bad day, but that's what Tyrod gets you, is that he doesn't throw up passes and take those hits, but he tucks and runs. He extends the play. He tries to find a chance. Not always coming out with a positive result in the end. A lot of those end up as incompletions, but that's what he gets you, and that's what the Bills need to start relying on at the end of this season.
Yeah, definitely. And that's another film breakdown for the future, because I think one thing that we got out of that game was the offensive line and the struggles that they actually have, something that maybe we didn't pay too much attention to because of Tyrod Taylor's ability to escape the pocket. So with that said, that's something we'll definitely dive into later. Second topic, real quick. The Chiefs signing Darrelle Revis. Where is he going to play? Is he going to be playing corner? Is he going to be playing safety? What have you seen on film? What have you looked at, in the stat boxes and read up on the Chiefs? Why would they go and sign Darrelle Revis?
Yeah, this came out of nowhere on Wednesday afternoon, and I'm not sure how much he was signed for. We were talking earlier that he may still be paid from the Jets on his earlier contract, so it probably wasn't very much. I think at this point in his career, Revis is more of a veteran backup type. He doesn't have that elite athleticism and change of direction ability that made him so good when he was in his prime. And he's a good name. He's a very smart player who should be able to come in and at least contribute. I know the Chiefs have some safety problems, so maybe they're looking to say convert him there, but it's kind of confusing to think about what they plan to do, and maybe he might not even play against the Bills this weekend. We'll have to see.
Yeah, I'm honestly, this was complete news to everyone, especially with the Bills coming to town and playing them. I don't know what kind of role he'll have this coming weekend, if he'll even suit up or whatever. It says, according to Pro Football Talk, it's saying that he played for the defensive coordinator Sutton before, so obviously he may have some familiarity with that defense. So that'll be interesting to keep an eye on as the days to the game come closer. But I mean, 32 years old, I'm not expecting too much from him. Obviously, he still has a ton of awareness and knowledge that could, I don't know, maybe be passed down to some of the guys in that film room and that secondary. But maybe even some nuances and some familiarity just with the defense overall. So who knows where that is? Who knows what he's going to be making there? From what I heard on NFL Network, he's still making money from the Jets. So it'll be interesting to see. I would be surprised if he has any type of major role, obviously, come Sunday. But with that said, we're going to transition to the film portion of this podcast. But before we do, I want to mention our partners over at Pro Football Focus. They are obviously a great resource, and a resource that we use for a lot of their advanced statistics. And we're going to be going over some of these later on in this podcast. Be sure to get to iTunes and leave your Twitter handle and a review, and you'll have a chance to win a free Edge membership. They pick one a week, so be sure to get there. Leave a review for us, obviously, and your Twitter handle to get a chance to win that free Edge membership. All right, guys, now we're on to the last portion of this podcast. We're going to be breaking down 3 big runs by Lesean McCoy, and if there's anything that came out of this game that was positive, it was that the run game started to get back on track. And I know a lot of it, happened when we were down or whatever, but just to see Lesean McCoy getting out into the open field again on some big runs was a pleasant sight to see. And he finished the game with 13 attempts for 114 yards and 1 touchdown on the ground. He also caught one at the front of the end zone. And we're going to break down 3 of these plays. But, Dan, overall, what were your thoughts on Shady's game against the Chargers?
Yeah, this was a great game. I wish the game had been kept closer for 4 full quarters, because it really looked like McCoy was finding plenty of room to work to the outside and at the second level. He still was getting bottled up at times on some of those inside zone plays, but overall, and we saw it too with Tyrod Taylor, who broke free for a scramble for 32 yards. So this was a good indication that when the Bills come up against a team that is not always able to control their gaps, they still have some outstanding talent in this running game to produce what was seen last year and the year before as one of the best running games in the league.
Yeah, and we're looking at some of the stats on Pro Football Focus. 101 of his 114 yards on the ground were outside the tight end to the left-hand side. And that's really what the Bills hung their hat on the prior 2 years. You know, we ran a lot of that pin and pull sweep from their shotgun formation the last couple of years, and it's something that we haven't seen too much of this year, but it was nice to see, and we're going to break some of it down because we did kind of pull out those concepts this past game, but they were from under center, so it was a little different dynamic to it, but we're going to go ahead and break those down here in a second. All right, guys, on to the film portion of this podcast. Unfortunately, Dan's on the road, and he's unable to join us for this portion as planned. He kind of had a really bad connection, so I'm just going to break down these three plays real quick. First one's going to be with the Bills down 7 points in the first quarter. They come back with the run game to kind of help out Nathan Peterman. Ball's on the left hash, and they have a twin set to the field. And you're going to see Deion Dawkins and Richie Incognito get on the perimeter and open a nice hole for Lesean Mccoy, and I believe he gained 32 yards on this play. So we're going to kind of take a look at it from the tight camera angle and some of the blocks that occurred here. So the Chargers are in an odd front, and the key block on this pin and pull concept from under center is actually by backup tight end Kaiir Lee. Does a really good job of pinning the defensive end there, which allows Dawkins to short trap this outside linebacker, and of course for Richie Incognito get out in front as well with fullback Patrick DeMarco. So you're going to see the down block. You're going to see a short trap by Dawkins. You're going to see Incognito wrap around that down block, pick up the flowing inside linebacker, and DeMarco is just going to kick out number 31 there. And I mean, McCoy has some really good patience on this, hits the hole, but just a really nice play from beginning to end. Really good blocking on the left side where McCoy gained a lot of his yards. So the very next play was even better. We talk about Dennison and how he's criticized a lot for not being creative. Well, with the ball in the left hash, he shows a little creativity here. He has his trip set into the boundary, and so to the left side, and he's going to show a little jet motion with Zay Jones. And, Zay Jones, if I'm a defensive player, I would say hand it off to him. I don't know why you would fall for this. Obviously, the defenders along the second level have to bump down gaps because of Zay Jones coming across, but he's not a real threat to actually carry the ball. So you'll see that eye candy of Zay Jones with the jet motion. Then you're going to get Dawkins and Richie on the perimeter again, leading the way, leading McCoy all the way to the end zone. So we'll look at it from the tight camera angle. So keep an eye on these second-level defenders and what this motion does to them and where they end up after this motion. They have to respect it. They have to bump down. You see them, they have to bump down gaps because that's something that's killed the Bills' defense the last couple of weeks. See Peterman take the quick snap and pitch it to Shady. But the really nice block here and what we call a crack block or a down block is actually performed by wide receiver Andre Holmes on that edge defender. Get a nice down block right there. And, of course, that leads Dawkins and Incognito to get on the perimeter. And once they get on the perimeter, they just do some damage. You'll see that defender stumbling after Tate passes him up. He's stumbling, and Dawkins gives him a nice little jolt, but Richie comes in with the finish for the pancake. So then they're out in the open field. Shady's carrying the ball like a loaf of bread. He's got two defenders coming in at him, one of them being the safety, Trey Boston. And that guy's coming in hot. Track him from the beginning of the play. He's coming in really hot. And Shady picks him up right once he gets to the corner here. And he just gives him a nice jump cut right here. I mean, just leaves him clutching air, jumps back inside, which then gives Dawkins another angle to hit another defender. Richie cleans up on the inside linebacker, and Shady trots into the end zone. So on to the third and final play that Shady broke in this game. Again, another bright spot in this game where we were just dominated. The Bills are down 40-7 at this moment. It's the third quarter, about 10-14 left in the quarter. 1st and 10, ball on the 21-yard line. And the ball's on the left hash. Again, they bring out the twin set to the field, and they run the same play, but this time it's a little different. The only person pulling is Richie Incognito. And, you know, it's really good blocking again and patience by Shady. Gets out in the open field and gets a chunky yardage. And we'll look at it from the tight camera angle because there's some really good blocking at the point of attack. So this time, instead of being an odd front, they are in an even front with the nose tackle on a tilt, all right? And so that's 4 down linemen, 3 linebackers. So with this defensive front, having that 3 tech to this G pull, you're going to have a little different blocking. So that means on this play, in order to get to the perimeter, you're going to have Dawkins with a down block here on the 3 tech. You're going to have Kaiir again work to the play side on Melvin Ingram and help seal that edge. You'll see it's a really nice job by him, and he's been a really good run blocker for the Bills this year. He's helped Shady bust some of his longest runs. So with that down block by Dawkins and that, you know, down block by Kaiir, it allows Richie Incognito and Patrick DeMarco to get on the perimeter. So you're going to have Richie picking up first color linebacker here. You're going to have DeMarco kicking out the force player. And Shady just reads it perfectly, gets up inside, and gets to the second level. Not a bad job either on the backside if you watch Vlad Dukas and center Erik Wood. They do a pretty good job of, you'll see Erik Wood scoop. He punches before he climbs, and that allows Dukas to take over that block. And then Wood does a really good job of sealing that lane there, which, you know, it may not look like a lot, but it helps Shady clear that level and that secondary level of linebackers to get into the open field. So, you know, one of the few bright spots from the Chargers game, I know there weren't many, but those 3 runs by Shady in schemes that we actually used a lot last year, that pin and pull concept, that G pull concept, things that we did really well last year, Dennison has continued to incorporate into the offense as the season goes on. So it was really nice to see. Showed a little creativity with that orbit motion. So hopefully the Bills move forward with the run game and stick to it, because regardless of who's in that quarterback, we got to have that run game going. It's just going to help this offense regain its identity and ultimately, hopefully, win some more games. So thanks for joining us today. This has been a short podcast presented by Cover One. We are Locked On Bills. Find us on Twitter at Locked On Bills. Find us at grandstandsportsnetwork.com. Obviously, a lot of content at cover1.net. Make sure to join us. This episode was brought to you by draft.com. Go into your search function on your phone and search draft for all your fantasy needs. It's your daily fantasy app. It's really cool. Definitely check it out. Again, this is Eric Turner on behalf of Locked On Bills, presented by Cover One.